Alrighty, welcome back everybody to our latest live stream. Hope everybody's having a good afternoon so far. This will be our first ever partial, at least, green screen live stream. Obviously, if you've not already watched the announcement video on Twitter as well as on Facebook, we officially have a green screen studio. Still a lot of imperfections, but I'm at least going to try it out in today's live stream. We'll kind of go through it for a little bit here. But we do have some breaking situations. We have three tornado warnings actually right now across Kentucky. Two of which, one is in Richmond and one is just to the east of Lebanon. We're going to break down both of those right now for you. So we're going to begin with the one that just appeared in Richmond, Kentucky. Let's go over to the velocities right now. This is a brand new tornado warning that was just issued, and it looks like we have some pretty strong rotation. So you'll notice here, this is going to be our rotation. It's just north of Richmond by a couple of miles. This storm right now moving off to the east. So make sure, again, if you're in Richmond, make sure you're seeking shelter now, away from windows, lowest floor possible, interior room of your home or building. That can be, again, in a bathroom, along those lines, anywhere away from windows is a good ideal spot to be right now. With this tornado warning moving off to the east, that'll be approaching areas like 1986 as well as 374. Those two roadways, that's where it's going. Just to the east of Interstate 75 is where that rotation is essentially located. It's actually kind of over Interstate 75 right now, but that's going to be moving off to the east. It's about a couple of miles north of Richmond, Kentucky. Again, if you're included in this tornado warning, make sure that you're seeking shelter immediately, away from windows and lowest floor possible. Let's go to the other tornado warning. It's a bit further down to the south and west. This is a storm that has been rotating for quite a while. It's not a storm that's, just appeared out of nowhere. It's been ongoing for the last 4 or 5 hours at least. But the rotation right now, it's fairly broad. We have some winds here. You can notice the winds going away from the radar are a little bit stronger. The reds are going to indicate at least some sort of damaging winds near the surface, around 50 to 60 miles per hour. But overall, the velocities are not really cranking here. So you'll notice, again, the green is the winds going towards the radar, red's going away from the radar, and there's a lot of gray space in between those two areas, which does indicate that we have fairly weak rotation at this current time. But if you're in Junction City or Hudsonville, make sure that you are getting to your safe place, away from windows and lowest floor possible. Stanford will also be on the track of this, just south of Danville, Kentucky is where we're at on this current tornado warning. We're going to hop back to the one, though, back near Richmond. Let's go over to that. The storm near Richmond definitely does seem to be a bit more of a concern right now. We're going to go to Richmond right now. This is, again, the velocities. Very strong rotation just to the north of Richmond by only a couple of miles. So, again, if you're in Richmond right now, if you know any friends or family in Richmond, Kentucky, make sure that you're alerting them. Get into shelter, away from windows, and lowest floor possible. Again, pretty dangerous storm right now, moving off to the east with pretty strong rotation. Make sure you get into your safe place. Thank you, Eleva, for the 2 months of being a minimum or moderate velocity. Appreciate it. All right, again, we have a lot of different things going on here. So I just mentioned before, we are currently on a green screen. I will probably be transitioning a little bit in between the green screen as well as the computer, just because, mainly due to the fact it is kind of difficult to see the monitors and all that. So eventually I'm hoping to get a bit better of a setup so we can actually have like monitors going each way, that sort of thing. But for right now, we are gonna kind of work with what we got right now. Again, if you are currently over north of Richmond, make sure you get your safe place. Look at this. This is the latest radar scan. Much stronger rotation developing just north of Richmond. Again, if you are in Richmond, you want to get to your safe place immediately. Let's go over to the correlation coefficient. Right now, the correlation coefficient, which this is what helps to indicate debris being lifted up into the atmosphere. We're not seeing that right now with this storm. Again, this tornado could happen at any time, though. So if you're just north of Richmond, strengthening rotation, correlation coefficient, not picking up on debris right now. But if you're in this area, you're going to want to make sure that you seek shelter because a tornado could very well drop at any time here. Let's go back over to the velocities. Again, that's the look at the velocities, and then here's the reflectivity. So when we go to the reflectivity, we're looking at the precipitation falling. When you notice these red colors and as well as the pink, heavier rain to the north, where the rotation is, it's embedded in some rainfall, really right here, just north of Richmond. That is where rotation is located, so this could potentially be some sort of rain-wrapped rotation. So again, if you're just north of Richmond, make sure that you're getting to your safe place right now. Richmond, again, is just kind of the south of this rotation, but we do sometimes see rotation dip a little bit further down to the south and as well as a little bit further off to the north, so it can sometimes change directions, but right now where that rotation is just north of Richmond, moving off to the east fairly quickly. So again, make sure you get to your safe place, away from windows and lowest floor possible. For the rest of the state, we do have another tornado warning south of Danville, Kentucky. That one I'm not as concerned about right now, but if you are in that pink polygon, you're going to want to make sure you seek shelter. We do have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing as well, one of which is near Moorhead, Kentucky. That's producing damaging winds around 60 miles per hour. We do have a couple of others just down to the south. Let's go over to the reflectivity so we can kind of check out this stuff a little bit easier. So this is the reflectivity. We do have a storm near Hazard that's not severe. A lot of the supercells that we're seeing that are trying to develop, you'll notice like one right here near Hazard, that one right there, a lot of these are like rogue supercells. They're really nowhere near that linear line of storms that's back out to the west, or really more of a cluster. So the storms that are way out in front are going to struggle more to become severe. The ones that are closer to the line have a better chance of producing a tornado risk as well as damaging winds and hail. You already can notice that those ones are the ones that currently are either tornado warned, or a few of them are severe thunderstorm warning, like the one near Glasgow. We'll go back a little bit further off to the west. So there's a storm near Glasgow right now that is producing the threat of at least some hail and damaging winds as it moves off to the east. But the main concern with any storms embedded in the line will be damaging winds between 60 to 70 miles per hour, and as well as the threat for a little bit of large hail. But I would be more a bit more concerned about the tornado risk. I think the tornado risk and as well as the damaging wind components are the best threats for today in terms of these storms. All right, we just got a new radar scan. Let's go back to the storm near Richmond. Again, we have fairly strong rotation on the storm near Richmond. This is the radar scan from a moment ago. We should get a new one here in a moment. But again, you'll notice very strong rotations. When those reds and greens come together, that's indicating some tighter rotation right now just north of Richmond. This radar scan is going to be coming in here in just a moment. There we go. So yeah, again, very strong rotation. This is near 388. We're going to zoom in a bit. So again, 388, that is where our strong rotation is located right now. Moving off to the east, so 1986, that roadway will be in the track of this, just to the north of Richmond. Let's hop back over to the correlation coefficient on this storm. And again, I'm not seeing anything too definitive in terms of a tornado. Maybe something here near 388. So there's a little bit of something there. There might be a little bit of debris being lifted up. It's kind of hard to tell. Nothing definitive, though, quite yet on this storm. And another key note, we are pretty far away from the radar site on this storm. So it's going to be a bit more difficult to tell whether there's actually a tornado on the ground, since we are looking at a degree angle with the radar much higher up into the atmosphere. But this is, again, moving off to the east. If you are currently in the Richmond area, seek shelter. We have all the town names, by the way, on the left side of your screen. We'll move over here. So all the town names here are on the left side of your screen, and that does include areas like Glasgow as well. Oh, actually, that's a severe thunderstorm warning. Let's go to the tornado warning. So that is the locations here. So we got Richmond as well as Harris Ferry, Bybee, College Hill, Burley, as well as Hillcrest, Reeds Crossing, and Elston. Those areas are included right now in this tornado warning. Again, get to your safe place, away from windows, and lowest floor possible. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is a pretty new green screen. It's pretty cool. I won't be using it all the time. I'll probably go to my desk at some point because it gets really hot too. The lighting makes it super hot in here, but we'll see how long we go. We'll see how long we go with the green screen. But again, strong rotation is approaching areas like 1986. Again, this is a pretty strong area of rotation moving off to the east. Again, we do not have any closer radar sites. I'm checking that out to see if we have any, but we just don't really. The other close radar site that we have is a little bit out in front of it. We'll check that radar site out to see if we have anything on this storm. And yeah, again, even this radar site, you'll notice, again, this is our area of rotations, right where I'm pointing. So that's going to be right over 1986, about 2 or 3 miles to the northeast of the downtown area of Richmond, Kentucky. That's where our strongest rotation is. So again, this area right here, that is where the strongest of the rotation is located with this supercell right now. Moving off to the east, again, you're going to want to make sure you seek shelter away from windows and lowest floor possible. Let's go over to the reflectivity again, and you'll notice, actually, this is a much better view of the storm. So we do have that hook shape. Let me kind of draw on here. So we got that hook shape right now. This is your hook. Inflow going into the storm, and again, right here is where that rotation is located. It actually will not be rain wrapped, so if there's any storm chasers out there, there's no rain wrap really to the storm right now, but that's where the tornado would be. It's located right in that circle if there were to be one, which there possibly could be with how strong that rotation is. We do have a little bit of a hail core a little bit further up here to the north, so a few miles to the north of Richmond. That's near 388. Moving off to the east again, 1986, that road there is the main area in the track of this. Let me go back over to here. We're going to put back on the locations and stuff like that. This warning does go until 2:15 Central Time. So again, here's the cities and towns in the track of that. That'll include areas like Harris Ferry, as well as Bybee, College Hill, Burley, Doylesville, Hillcrest, and those areas are in the track. Here's the latest radar scan. I'll kind of get out of the way here. Latest radar scan, again, very defined hook on this storm. Let's go over to the velocities. And yeah, we have very strong rotation still. We'll have a new radar scan in a moment, but again, very strong rotation. Well, we should be getting a new radar scan in a moment, I think. Oh, nope, this is the most recent one. Never mind. So yeah, again, the strongest rotation is located here near 1986. So this is the area where I put the circle. Let's go over to the velocities again, or the correlation coefficient. And there could be a tornado on the ground here. Let's go to the velocities, and we're going to kind of match this up a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell. We don't have a whole lot of reflectivity on front of it. I'm still not certain that there's a tornado here, but again, one could drop at any time. This is where our rotation is located. It's going to be right about there, near 388. And the 1986 intersection there, just a few miles to the north of Richmond. That's where the strongest rotation is. But a very classic hook. You'll notice that very classic hook shape on this storm. Again, the latest National Weather Service update here just updated the tornado warning. It is still radar indicated. This is not a confirmed tornado yet, but we definitely have some strong rotation. There's likely some sort of lowering with this storm as well, possibly like a wall cloud or something like that moving off to the east. So yeah, if you're in the area, make sure you seek shelter. I'm going to check out and see if we have any reports on this. And we'll do that from the mobile device. I have so many monitors with different things on them right now. All right, let's go over to that. Check out and see if we have any reports on the storm. All right, so the latest report in Kingston, Kentucky, is a rotating wall cloud. That's a really recent report. And that's our only report so far on the storm. So near Kingston is where we have a rotating wall cloud. I'm not entirely sure if it's on this storm or not. I do not have too much knowledge on this area, but again, there could very well be a rotating wall cloud, potentially a funnel cloud, some sort of, rotating clouds a little bit aloft. It's definitely not out of the question. Again, the rotation on this cell is really strong. Let's go over to the velocities again. Again, very strong rotation. I mean, that's pretty tight, to be honest with you. Let's go back over to the reflectivity. That's way out in front of it, though. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Again, that's fairly strong rotation regardless. And there very well could be a tornado on the ground here. Let's go back over to the velocities. Oops. There we go. So again, very strong rotation right now. That is our area of rotation. I know there's some discolorization here with the radar, but there is very strong rotation in that circle there. That's 1986 and near 374. Very well could be a tornado on the ground at any time. Again, if you're northeast of Richmond by a few miles, get immediately to your safe place. Anywhere in the pink polygon, we very well could see a tornado drop at any time. This is northeast of Richmond, Kentucky. Areas in front of this, by the way, will include Stanton. So Stanton's going to be on the track of this later. Irvine is probably going to be a little bit south of this storm, but I would still be on alert because this storm could possibly impact you later on. South of Jefferson as well, south of Frenchburg. Those areas will be in the track of the supercell later on, and the supercell I'm talking about is right here. We're still seeing very strong rotation back out to the west of those areas near Richmond. So, and you want to make sure you're getting to your safe place immediately. This is a very nasty looking supercell, though. I mean, we are talking about a really decent hail core here. You'll notice that very strong hail core, possibly around quarter, $half sized hail, maybe even a little bit larger. But again, the bigger concern right now is the threat for a tornado, which could happen at any time as this continues to move off to the east. Again, for those in Irvine, as well as Clay City and Stanton, you want to make sure you're on alert because this storm will be heading that direction. This is the cleanest discrete supercell that we've seen so far today, by the way. Probably one of the cleanest, at least so far. I mean, this is definitely the cleanest that we've seen so far because a lot of the other rogue supercells that we have are not very impressive. They're just producing a little bit of hail and damaging winds, but nothing in comparison to what we're seeing here right now. So again, make sure you're seeking shelter away from windows and lowest floor possible. Thanks, Unstable. I appreciate it. Thank you. How's it going, Sam? Welcome back. All right. Let's go back over to here. I'm going to go off the screen for just a second. And I'm kind of off I'm not fully off the screen, but again, this is still, there's a lot of imperfections with the green screen setup. So, but we will be definitely working on a lot of those. I'm going to go back over to the velocities. We'll check that out. Yeah, the rotation's not too strong right now. It has been tight at times, but this is the latest velocity scan. Red is going to be the winds going away from the radar. Green is going towards the radar. I'm not seeing nearly as much here. And again, this is north of Richmond. Let me just zoom out just a little bit so you get a better idea where we're at. So again, this is Richmond, Kentucky. A little bit further off to the north and east. That is our pocket of rotation with this tornado warning. Red is not very strong here. Red velocities, that's the winds going away from the radar. We're not seeing nearly as much of that right now. They're fairly weak. Dull red colors usually indicate weak rotation. Sorry, my microphone was nowhere near me. Also, the winds going towards the radar are the ones that we're watching for very closely as well. Those are the ones that are strongest right now. You'll notice that on the southern side of this area of rotation. We very well could maybe have some sort of rotating wall cloud of some sorts with this supercell, but I am not seeing anything right now that is indicating a full-blown tornado on the ground because we're not seeing anything tight right now. We did see that a moment ago, but it's definitely weaker on this latest radar scan. Let's go over to the correlation coefficient again. And again, this is pretty far out of the supercell too. too. It's pretty far out in front of at least where that hook shape is, which usually with tornadoes, we see the tornado typically back in here where that hook is. So we're not really seeing that here, but we have some fairly strong winds going away from the radar right now, which is pretty impressive. Those are very strong velocities. I would assume those bright reds are probably in the realm of 50 to 60 miles per hour. So regardless of there being a tornado on the ground, we at least have some high winds off to the northeast of Richmond. So that's definitely a concern here over the next little while. So again, if you're anywhere in this warning, stay in a safe place, away from windows, lowest floor possible. Only locations included now in this tornado warning are going to be on the left side of your screen. So that includes Harris Ferry, Bybee, College Hill, Elliston, and as well as Doylesville. Let's just zoom out real quick. And this is the tornado warning back near Danville. And we haven't really talked about this in a while, so I just want to quickly give you an update on this. This is the rotation. It's fairly weak. It's at the northern side of where the warning polygon is, just to the southeast of Junction City. Very weak rotation. I'm not too concerned about this storm right now. Stay in your safe place until the warning is officially lifted, but at this current time, it does not seem to be as much of a concern at this point. For the rest of Kentucky right now, again, we do have a severe thunderstorm watch up until 7 o'clock tonight. Let's go to the live radar again. And this is the current severe thunderstorm watch, so it includes a big chunk of Kentucky. I mean, it's a huge area of Kentucky and a couple of counties of southern West Virginia, as well as into western Virginia. That's kind of a bit of a tongue twister because we got West Virginia and western Virginia, but as well as into very far northern Tennessee. And northern Tennessee is looking at more of a rogue supercell potential. So if any storms are able to become discrete, we might see a couple of those down in northern Tennessee with maybe a collapsing line of storms with some damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour. Just a little heads up from a 911 call center. We do have a confirmed report of nickel-sized hail, dime-sized hail, somewhere in that range near Wooten, and that is in Leslie County in Kentucky. All right, we do have a brand new tornado warning that has been issued on the storm that has been producing some fairly strong rotation for quite a while. This is the storm that is now just east of Richmond. This is where our rotation's located. It's right here, moving off to the east. And this is the latest radar scan. It seems to be weakening again. So if you're in Stanton and Irvine, you don't need to get to your safe place right now, but I would plan on getting there within the next couple of minutes because this storm is not that slow. I mean, it's moving at a good, let's go to the warning here. It's moving about 35 miles per hour off to the east. So it's definitely moving at a pretty good pace, but Stanton and Irvine, you should make sure you get to your safe place within the next couple of minutes. If you have any friends or family in this area, make sure you give them a call or a text because this is definitely an area that we have to watch out for the supercell. Again, there's a very clean inflow in this storm. If we go back to the reflectivity, very, very clean hook. That's the hook echo. Let me go over this way. So yeah, we had a pretty defined hook right here. We also have an inflow going into the storm, and with that, we're going to likely see the potential for at least rotation at some part of the storm. So whether that is in the upper levels or the lower levels, we at least have some rotation going with the storm still. I'm pretty sure we had, again, a reported wall cloud not too long ago on this storm. So again, make sure you're staying in your safe place away from windows, lowest floor possible. But this is the latest radar scan. For the time being, the rotation has definitely subsided, at least at the lower levels, but this could very well strengthen again in the near term. So we'll be watching this storm pretty closely as it continues to move off to the east. How's it going, Ron? Welcome back. Further reminder, if you're just tuning in, by the way, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, like the stream. Again, this is our first stream ever using the green screen setup. I will not be using this the entire live stream. I'll probably be using it for like another 10 minutes, and then we'll probably go back to the original way for a little while because I am going to be sweating if I did this the entire live stream. All right, so the latest update on this storm, this is the latest radar scan. Back up here to the north, we currently have a pretty large hail core just to the northeast of Richmond. That's about 10 miles or so now northeast of Richmond, so there's definitely a possibility. I would not rule out upwards of maybe ping pong ball sized hail there. That is a increasing hail core. Let's actually go to the correlation coefficient, and yeah, that's definitely a pretty large hail core. You'll notice all that's popping up here, that is all hail up there. We're definitely seeing a lot of hail falling with this storm near 977 and 1986. And actually, they just added a severe thunderstorm warning for that threat. So the threat is going to be for $half sized hail. That's at least what they're currently putting on the warning. Again, I would not rule out the threat for upwards of ping pong ball sized hail. But again, make sure you stay away from windows as that storm does continue to move off to the east and east-northeast. Definitely a potential for some large to very large hail, though. That is definitely a very nasty looking hail core. And again, this cell overall is discrete. It is very concerning as it continues to move towards Stanton and Irvine because, again, discrete supercells are the ones that typically produce the greatest tornado risk and as well as the greatest large hail and even damaging wind threat. I mean, it basically produces the greatest of all modes of severe weather because it's discrete. It does not share energy amongst a cluster of storms, which is what we're seeing back out to the east or west, by the way. All these storms that are back out here to the west, up and down, essentially from Paris and Lexington all the way back through Danville, those are all sharing energy amongst themselves, which which is why really none of them are severe right now. There's just not enough energy here in the atmosphere or enough organization, because again, we're looking at a surface low that is pretty weak, honestly. It's a very weak surface low that we have right now moving through the mid-Atlantic region as well as the southern Ohio Valley. So that is the biggest reason why we're not really seeing any significant severe weather over there. A lot of the energy does come from daylight heating. That's really the main source for a lot of the instability, or a lot of the source for the storms that we're seeing out here. So if there's any daylight heating, that'll increase that instability by tenfold usually. But yeah, that's really the main source that we've seen the instability today for across this region. How's it going, Minty? All right, let's go over to the velocities again and get, wow, I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, we're still seeing some rotation here. It's not strong, but that's our area of rotation. So it's going to be just to the east of Richmond by about a few miles. That is going to be right along 977. So if you're in this area, again, make sure you seek shelter away from windows and lowest floor possible. We definitely have some rotation there. That is definitely an area that we have to watch for some concerning rotation over the next several minutes. Now, real quick, I'm going to make a quick transition. We're going to go from the green screen back to the computer, so it'll take about 30 seconds. So stay tuned. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Be right back. Be right back. While I take a quick break, I just wanted to give you a friendly reminder to hit that red button down below and subscribe. That way you never miss an accurate and honest forecast from Max Velocity. Also, make sure to hit that bell icon and click all so you receive all notifications when I go live or I have a video forecast for you. Also, hit the like button down below as well. Helps our page out a lot. And if you're feeling generous and you want to support our page above and beyond, you can become a member for as little as $2.99 per month. All you need to do is click that little join button and you can select from 4 different tiers, which will give you different benefits from bloopers access to exclusive forecasts. You will also get a shout out here on our live stream. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. I think I did the transition pretty well. All right, let's see. See how it looks. All right, I don't have the right face cam. Give me 1 second. That was from earlier. One moment, please. It's always good times. All right, we're back. Welcome back. Thank you. All right. So, we are back. I gotta kind of fix all the setup and stuff like that. All right, so again, we currently have a tornado warning ongoing in Kentucky. Again, this is gonna be east of Richmond. Moving off to the east, so make sure you seek shelter away from windows, lowest floor possible, interior room of your home or building. This is going to be heading towards areas like Stanton and Irvine. And again, this is going to be moving off to the east around 35 miles per hour. It does have some fairly strong rotation still. That is going to be located just to the east of Richmond. So that's the area of rotation right now. But yeah, again, that is kind of how the green screen works. I'm literally sweating now after that. But yeah, I'll be using it more in the future. It's one of the things that I kind of had to fix for the setup. There's just for the transition especially, it takes a little while, so it'll be something I use more in the future. But the warning count is incorrect, by the way, so just ignore that. I do have to fix that, but it's actually not too far off. We have currently 3 tornado warnings. We do have a cluster of severe thunderstorm warnings. Again, a lot of the severe weather that we're seeing right now across Kentucky is, I would say, for the most part, scattered. It's not, widespread by any means. It's going to be scattered for the most part. We do have an enhanced risk of severe weather, but Moorhead's an area that we have a severe thunderstorm warning. Again, that's our tornado warning. Further down to the south, we do have a new severe thunderstorm warning. That tornado warning will be allowed to expire if it's not already been canceled, which I think that tornado warning ends in literally a minute. Yeah, it ends in a minute. So that tornado warning will be let to end there. And then further down to the south near Somerset, that is another supercell that's kind of just developed. It's a bit more of a rogue supercell moving down to the east. And then another storm near Hazard, that warning just expired. A lot of the cells that we have out in front of it, though, near Hazard and Wayland, those are fairly weak for the most part right now. They are producing some strong storm characteristics, but they're definitely not severe right now. So you'll notice here they just added a special weather statement to that one. So that's what we're seeing out there right now. All right, I'm going to fix my camera real quick because it is not in the right position. I'll be right back in a second. All right, there we go. Sorry. Again, this is a work in progress. It is a huge work in progress. There's still a lot of things to be fixed, but it was pretty cool while it lasted. It was pretty cool. I'm gonna make it. I think I'm gonna have an announcement video tomorrow on this, but literally, like, having a green screen has always been my dream, and we finally have one, which is awesome. But it will definitely be a work in progress still. All right, let's go back over to the current tornado warning. Again, we are east of Richmond, Kentucky. This is a tornado warning that's been rotating for quite some time. Again, we do have a hook on this storm, pretty large hail core ongoing as well, so we're probably talking somewhere between $quarter to $half sized hail. That's near 977. This is your hook, and again, that is where your rotation's located right now. That's gonna be moving off to the east, maybe the east-southeast a little bit. Clay City's in the track of this. That's really the main area in the track of this in the short term. Further off to the east, like Stanton as well as Irvine, those areas will be in the track of this storm soon, so make sure you seek shelter away from windows, lowest floor possible, interior room of your home or building. If you have any last second things to do in Stanton, like get your pets to your basement or whatever it might be, you have some time. There's no rush yet. If you're, as well as Irvine, you guys are both, you have a couple of minutes, so if you need to do something real quick, I mean like literally 2 or 3 minutes, you should not take longer than that. The storm is moving 35 miles per hour off to the east. Again, very defined area of rotation as well. Very well could see a tornado drop on the storm at any time as it does continue to move off to the east. Let me make sure I can fix the warning count as well real quick. We're gonna go ahead and put 1 tornado warning on. There is technically 2 right now, but the other one is just this one. It's on the back side of the storm. That's near just west of 89, so we'll just take that down to that. All right, cool. Cool. Stay safe, Lucy. Stay safe. Yeah, these storms are definitely, I mean, again, these storms are not like, they're not going to be strong. I mean, if we see a tornado, we're probably not going to see a strong tornado. I would be kind of surprised. I think if there's to be a strong tornado, it would come out of one of these discrete cells. So there's a possibility for it. There's always a possibility for those sort of things. But with this cell in particular, this probably has the best chance of producing that threat because, again, it's discrete. Has a very clean inflow. There's no storms around it, so when we have discrete supercells, the tornado risk naturally will just increase. So we're definitely seeing that right now with this storm just to the south or west southwest of Stanton. So if it can strengthen, we definitely have an increased tornado risk with this, but we'll have to wait and see if it actually can mature. And again, it has a pretty large hail core. The hail core is definitely concerning as it moves off to the east. Further over down to the south and west, we have some of these other storms that have tornado possible labels, and what that means is that we could again see a possibility for a tornado. So the storm just to the west of Biera, this one right now has some rotation. You'll notice these are the winds going towards the radar, going away from the radar. This is where your rotation's located, but there's not really anything that strong. It's very broad and weak rotation. So again, anything in the line of storms is naturally going to be weaker. Further down to the south and west, we have some other storms near Glasgow, and we can actually finally move around this radar. So let's go a bit further down to the south here. We're going to go to the radar site to the south of these. So Bowling Green and Woodburn are both in warnings as well as Glasgow. And these are the storms that are not going to be producing really as much, I would say, of a tornado risk. I think the low-level jet to begin with is stronger off to the east, and we're also seeing an outflow boundary with these, and that outflow boundary is going to be indicating that a lot of this is outflow driven, and usually when we have outflow driven storms, they're not going to be really producing much of a tornado risk. But yeah, you'll notice here the warning right now for Bowling Green and Woodburn is for quarter-sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Same thing with Glasgow, but I'm more concerned, I would say, about the hail throughout these. Along that outflow boundary, there might be some damaging winds around 60, but that really goes for this entire outflow boundary, which does extend fairly far off here to the east. Now, the storm near Richmond, or just east of Richmond now, this one does not nearly have, or it doesn't really have an outflow boundary. So obviously the tornado risk with non-outflow driven storms is going to be higher. So that's what we're seeing out of this storm right now. Latest radar scan, still a pretty large hail core. Again, I would not be surprised if we're talking upwards of ping pong ball, maybe golf ball sized hail here. So again, if you're over in Stanton or Clay City north of Irvine, make sure you're staying away from windows, lowest floor possible. Rotation does not seem to be nearly as strong here. There is still some weak rotation just south of 89. This is the rotation here. I'll circle it there. But it's not nearly as strong as before. So good news there. But the hail core is much, much more concerning, I would say, right now, at least in the short term over the next 5 to 10 minutes. Now, again, if this can strengthen and intensify into a potential tornado, we very well could be talking about a pretty significant tornado, but the chances of that right now, I'd say, are kind of low. We just don't have the correct environment for something like that, but we definitely have a possibility here near Stanton. I'm going to see if we have any other reports here. This tornado warning, by the way, if you are currently in the Harris Ferry or College Hill area, in this tornado warning specifically, I would stay in shelter for a couple more minutes, but that storm should be passing you here in just a moment. It should be out of your area. More of a hail concern if you're on the eastern side of that small polygon. This polygon, though, you want to make sure you are in your safe place now. If Irvine or Stanton, I would recommend getting there right now. Vaughn's Mill as well as Furnace are in the track of this storm as well. So a population of 18,000 in the track of this ongoing tornado warning, which again, we have a very defined hook right now on this cell, and then that's where your rotation is located. It's just out in front of that storm. All right, no new reports on this storm as of right now. Again, we will keep you posted. Yellow polygons are going to be your severe thunderstorm warnings. Sorry, I'm usually on the live radar feed, but when we're on a tornado warning, it doesn't show that. But yeah, yellow is going to be severe thunderstorm warnings. The pink is tornado warnings, and there is a key for that, at least on this. But yeah, for some reason I do it like I do it for whatever reason. The software I have actually came as pink. I can change it if I want, but I think pink, or it comes as pink, but you could change it to red if you wanted. I just think this kind of gets the word out a bit more, just a little bit more. Further reminder, if you're just tuning in, make sure to subscribe down below, like the stream as well. We'll be live here for a little while, just cover the severe weather. Again, the biggest concern today, we have two different concerns, one of which are the rogue supercells. Any cells that become discrete out in front of that line of storms is definitely concerning. So you'll notice anywhere basically in this black circle right now, that is the focus area for some discrete cells to develop, our rogue supercells. And then anything behind that is your linear, or not really linear line of storms. It's basically a very large cluster of storms that are disorganized. And those are the ones that are going to be producing more of a damaging wind threat more than anything. And it'll be fairly, I would say, widely scattered for severe weather out of these. Gusty winds is almost a given today. So you'll probably at least see some gusty winds between 45 to 50 miles per hour throughout Kentucky with that leading edge of those thunderstorms with that outflow boundary. But the storms that are definitely the most concerning today are the ones that are going to be discrete. So this one, for example, north of Irvine and near Stanton, this one is one of those examples where we definitely have some strong rotation here, or at least not really strong rotation, but we have some rotation, I should say. That definitely could strengthen at any time. So we'll be keeping a close eye on this as it continues to move off to the east. How bad will Virginia be hit? Virginia probably won't be too bad. My expectation right now for anywhere back over in, like, let's just say Virginia or West Virginia, both states really, would probably be just damaging winds up to 60. I don't foresee much else there. If any of these storms out in front, though, the discrete cells can become organized, and if you're in, like, far western Virginia, for example, so west of Bluefield, you have a better chance of at least maybe a low-end tornado risk and low-end hail threat. But I would say, for the most part, West Virginia and as well as Virginia will be more, I would say, of a damaging wind component. But the storms are going to be severe through sunset or so. So these storms definitely can still produce severe weather all the way through Bluefield, Beckley. But you know, I would foresee that the threats over there will be probably lower. Roanoke, Virginia is also kind of in the same boat. You could see some severe weather a little bit later. That would probably be after 6 o'clock. But you have a better chance of that. And again, damaging winds is the main threat through Virginia. But we might see some large hail, maybe an isolated tornado risk. Hey, traffic light. I have not fixed that. I kind of did this last second. I wasn't planning on going. I was kind of like thinking about going live today. At one point I was like, I'm not going to, but I did not fix the description. I do apologize. Actually, I can probably just remove that real quick. For Tennessee, it's gonna, again, really the only concern for Tennessee will probably be the northern half of the state. We do have a marginal threat. Let's go to the Storm Prediction Center's outlook. Put it up here. So again, we do have that enhanced risk of severe weather. I would honestly say that this area could probably be shifted slightly up to the north, and really with what's going on right now, it would make a bit more sense. But really, I would say if any cells, again, these discrete cells can kind of be mature and as well strengthen, we very well could see an increased tornado risk across this area, as well as that damaging wind and large hail threats. So basically all modes of severe weather. But for those like near Knoxville or Nashville or anything like that, I still foresee more of a damaging wind potential. I don't see as much of a tornado risk down that direction. The tornado parameter values are higher up here to the north anyways, so back through Kentucky and really just kind of very far southern West Virginia and as well as into western Virginia. Those areas have a bit more of a potential for tornadoes, but again, the threat still remains somewhat low today. But yeah, that's really the main concern. Tennessee, I think, is going to be more of a damaging wind threat, but maybe a little bit of large hail as well. We are seeing some large hailstorms, like near Birmingham, for example. There is some large hail ongoing down that direction. Also, south of Meridian, there is some large-ish hail, nickel size. It's not really large hail, but as well as damaging winds around 60. All right, let's go back to the storm that's tornado warned. Really haven't talked about this in depth for the last few minutes. This storm is moving towards Stanton, Clay City, and as well as Irvine. Irvine is no longer included directly in this warning, but on the north side you are. So if you're still on the north side, I would stay in your safe place away from windows. This is the latest velocities radar scan. Not seeing as much rotation on this. The velocities are somewhat weaker. They are broad. They've been broad for quite a while as well. I would still stay in your safe place just in case if you're in Stanton or just south of there, because we definitely have some large hail ongoing, and in addition to that, we probably have some damaging winds ongoing with this cell. So in that circle there, that's where our rotation's located. The storm will continue to move off to the east, maybe the east-southeast, towards areas like Stanton, and eventually, in the long term, Campton would be in the track of this. Maybe Jackson, the radar site, kind of maybe in the track of this. But overall, going through some fairly rural areas, I'd say, after Stanton. Campton would be the next main location, I should say, in the track of this storm. Further down to the south, we have some severe thunderstorm warnings near Mount Vernon, Bavaria as well. Those areas are produced or have the threat for damaging winds around 60 miles per hour, and as well as a little bit of nickel-sized hail. And then further down to the south and west of that, north of Jamestown near Russell Springs, that is where we're seeing the potential for damaging winds around 60, and as well as some quarter-sized hail. Bowling Green is still in a warning. Those storms back near Bowling Green in Interstate 65 are much weaker than before. They are most likely just going to be some large hail, or not even large hail, I'll just say some hail, really less than quarter size probably, and maybe a concern for some gusty winds around 50 to 55 miles per hour, but I do think the damaging wind threat with these is lower. You'll notice the velocities here on the leading edge of this outflow boundary. That is where the highest winds are currently located. It's gonna be literally right along that line. That outflow boundary that we're seeing that's pushing south and east, that is where those winds are currently being produced. There is some gusty winds embedded in these storms, but they're not going to be as high as that outflow boundary. The outflow boundary definitely has a better chance of some damaging wind potential, somewhere around 60 to maybe 70 miles per hour at the most. 70 is kind of a little bit of a stretch, I'd say. Probably 60. We'll go with that. All right, we'll go back to the Stanton storm. We're going to check and see if we have any other updates as well. By the way, thank you, William, for sending in that photo on Twitter. Appreciate it. All right, I fixed the description. Thank you. How's it going, Sandra? Welcome back. No problems, Cecilia. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you, Jessica, for subscribing. I appreciate it. Welcome. All right, this warning, by the way, has been upgraded to ping pong ball-sized hail. I mentioned this when we were on the green screen a little while ago. This is a storm in particular that definitely has that threat for some large to very large hail. You'll notice, again, it's discrete to begin with. We have a very nasty-looking hail core near 2001 and 82, near 15, just southwest of Stanton. There's definitely a pretty impressive hail core here. That's definitely going to be a concern over the next few hours across areas near Stanton. We'll be watching for that threat of some pretty substantial hail as it continues to move off to the east, but I'm not nearly, I mentioned this before, I'm not nearly as concerned about the tornado risk yet because the rotation has not been very strong for a little while now. If we go back to the velocities, again, we're still seeing some very broad rotation. If we go further up into the atmosphere, you'll notice there is a bit more rotation. Actually, it's pretty strong. A little bit stronger up here, so there might be some sort of wall cloud, but again, the reds, which are the winds going towards, or away from the radar, excuse me, are the ones that are fairly weak with this storm right now. The winds going towards the radar are much stronger. So what that essentially means is that we definitely have some damaging winds, but the rotation is struggling to kind of churn those clouds. So that's what we're basically looking at here on radar in the radar breakdown. Not nearly as defined of an area of rotation at this current time, but we'll see kind of what unfolds. And you'll notice going further up into the atmosphere, this is a few thousand feet off the ground, definitely some rotation here. But again, we do not have that really in comparison at the surface. It's just not there right now. It's much more spinned out, if you will, across areas like 974 north of Irvine and southwest of Stanton. That's some good news at this point. Good news. See how long that good news lasts. All right. Here's the latest radar scan. So again, I'm pretty happy with this because we're not really seeing as much rotation. Again, it's weakening very quickly south of Clay City. There's really not a whole lot left, at least near the surface. We still have a very defined supercell. Let's not forget that. We still have a very defined supercell. Pretty clear hook still in the storm as well, southwest of Stanton. But I'm more concerned again about that hail risk. I think the ping pong ball sized hail threat is much more concerning here southwest of Stanton. But again, if you're in this area, I would still stay in your safe place anyways, because damaging winds around 60 to 65 miles per hour will be possible with this storm. But if you're in Stanton, the hail threat looks much more concerning right now. So upwards of ping pong ball, maybe even golf ball sized hail. And then north of Irvine, those areas are really going to be seeing the most significant severe weather out of the storm over the next several minutes. Further down to the south, we still have damaging winds ongoing near Mount Vernon. Let's go back to the velocities here. So this is right now the storm further down to the south near Berea as well as Mount Vernon. Not much rotation right now. I mentioned this before. These two storms are labeled as tornado possible. That means this is not a tornado warning, but it's kind of in between that. So we're at a severe thunderstorm warning level, but we could see a tornado warning if the rotation starts to intensify. But right now the rotation is very weak back near Berea, or Berea, I don't know if I'm saying the name right, but near Berea. That is where we have a little bit of rotation right now, just to the west of Interstate 75. Further down to the south, fairly weak velocities at this current time, more of a wind threat, if anything, but overall, I would say that the wind threat is also kind of low with this. I think that there's an outflow boundary out in front of this that you can't see on radar, but that outflow boundary is probably what's producing the wind threat right now through areas like Mount Vernon and near Interstate 75. If you're a truck driver along Interstate 75, you definitely want to be on alert for the high winds. You might want to pull over as those storms do approach. Friendly reminder, the severe thunderstorm watch does go until 7 o'clock tonight. That does include areas like Pikeville, Middlesboro, Cookeville, northeast of Nashville, not in Nashville directly, Lexington, as well as Danville, Somerset, Bowling Green, all included. Does not include Bluefield or Roanoke or Beckley back over in the Virginias, but there's definitely a chance for some severe weather after about 5 or 6 o'clock tonight back over that direction to the east. Tornado warning has been condensed. It still does include Stanton for the time being. Is Texas looking okay? Yes, Texas is looking fine. Yeah, actually, believe it or not, I will talk about this in today's video. I already made a video for today. It won't be published, though, until after this live stream. We did talk about, in today's video, the severe weather threat for North Texas and really across a large chunk of Texas for Friday. There is a slight risk of severe weather for Friday, so there'll be more on that in today's forecast. So stay tuned. I'll probably post that around 5 o'clock or so today. And then after today, just a little update for everybody. I will not be able to go live through Saturday. So I'll be on a little trip again. I probably won't have any videos either. I might have one, but pretty low chance I'll really have any videos. Yeah, that is the schedule as of right now. Hey, stay safe, Austin. South Carolina will be fine for the next few hours. You might see some more severe weather later today, though. For those that are still in this tornado warning, it does include Clay City, Vaughn's Mill, Furnace, and Stanton. If you are in Irvine, you don't need to be in your safe place unless you're on like the northern side, like in this area. But really, the biggest concern right now is the large hail threat, but that seems to be weakening a little bit. The severe thunderstorm warning back behind this, that is going to be let to expire or potentially be canceled. I would assume this gets canceled because, you know, we have 12 minutes left, so make a bit more sense. It might already be canceled. It just might have not disappeared yet on here. But this storm, again, is going to be getting caught up to this line of storms behind. And regardless, the longevity of this supercell is not going to probably be that great because of the main reason why is because, again, we have that line of storms back here to the west. And once that starts to kind of catch up to the supercell, because this is moving faster than the supercell, it's going to weaken pretty quickly. That outflow boundary will overcome this storm. So long term, if you're in like West Liberty or Salyersville, if I'm saying the name right, so anywhere back out to the east, you have a very low chance of being impacted by this storm particularly, but there might be some other cells that develop out in front of that. So that's probably the bigger concern right now. But yeah, this storm is definitely starting to weaken just a little bit right now. We'll go back to the velocities, and yeah, and it does seem like it's weakening at this point. But we'll kind of see what unfolds. I'd still stay in your safe place if you're in Stanton for the time being. There's still some rotation, but I'm pretty certain it's going to be probably fizzling out here, but we'll see. Hey, Brandon, stay safe. Yeah, that area is more of a damaging wind threat. I already looked over that direction. More of a damaging wind threat for you, though. No tornado risk at this point. Let's go back over here. Go to velocities. Yeah, the rotation's very weak. There's really no rotation at this point. The only area of rotation, which is to the southeast, would be here. There is actually a little bit of rotation, even though there's not a whole lot of red showing, which are those winds going away from the radar. There's not much of it, but there is definitely some winds going towards the radar, and sometimes we can get brief tornadoes with that, even though, you know, you can kind of notice there's really not much there, but sometimes we get like little quick tornadoes in those sort of storms. So something to maybe watch back down to your south and east, but definitely not too concerning at this time. We're going to stay on the tornado warning. We currently have 4 or 5 other severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing. We'll drop the warning count down to 6. I think we have 5 right now. We might have 6, but this one I'm pretty sure has been canceled, so that would be 5. No problem, Matthew. Lexington, probably not too much of a concern there. Again, it'd probably be more of a damaging wind threat later today, but you're not going to be really impacted by these storms until later today. If you're along that West Virginia and Kentucky border, not too much of a concern in the short term, but maybe later. Maybe later, we'll see. I'll pull up the future radar also in a moment to give you an idea of what's happening there. Let's go to the future radar, and real quickly, we're going to check the storm one more time, and then we'll go to the future radar just to kind of show you what's going to happen the rest of today. All right, let's go to the velocities. Again, there is some rotation here still. It's not much. It's very weak, and it's not tight by any means, so we definitely don't have a tornado right now, but this is the area where that circle is. That is the area that we have a threat for a tornado. Back near Stanton, it's more of a hail threat. There might be some downburst winds upwards of 60 miles per hour as well, so again, I would stay away from windows. And honestly, this hail never ends. We still have a pretty large hail core here, just down to the southwest of Stanton. All right, let's go to the future radar. I'll give you an idea of what's going to be happening over the next few hours. Kind of give you an idea of what's happening there. So let's go to the future radar, give you an idea of the future, beginning with 3 o'clock. Again, storms will continue to move off to the east, and these storms will be moving pretty quick, around 35 to 40 miles per hour. So Pikeville will be in the track of this closer to about 4 to 5, I would say, near the West Virginia and as well as the Kentucky border, probably around 4 to 6 o'clock, depending on where you are. This is 4 o'clock, so storms will continue most likely just in that kind of clustered environment. Not really organized. I'm kind of hesitating from saying linear because it's really not linear. It's fairly disorganized at this point. The easiest way to put it. It's a disorganized linear line of storms that we're seeing moving through Kentucky. But by 4 o'clock, those storms will be moving into northern Tennessee and then back into areas like West Virginia. By 5 o'clock, storms continue to move off to the east and as well as down to the south for those near Cookeville. Knoxville, be on alert closer to around 5 to 7 o'clock tonight, and then those storms move off to the east. Further off to the east, we'll go to the other future radar back over in Virginia. That line of storms will move through western Virginia, just west of Roanoke, by around 6 to 7 o'clock tonight near Johnson City. And eventually by 8 to 9 o'clock, those storms will be moving through Danville and Greensboro. And then by 10 to 11 o'clock, storms continue to roll off to the east near Richmond and just to the west of West Virginia. So overall, the severe weather threat will be lower by then. But yeah, that's what we're looking at for the threats for the rest of today. All right, let's go back to the velocities on this storm. We still have rotation here. It's attempting to re-strengthen. This is now our area of rotation. It is now becoming a bit more intense. We might have a bit more upper level rotation. And we actually had some very strong upper level rotation moments ago on the last radar scan. But this is the area of rotation right now. So we could see a tornado at any time. The storm has become organized again north of Irvine and south of Stanton, Kentucky. Strong rotation, clean inflow, and then that is where the tornado likes to sit. It'd be right in there. So strengthening rotation again. Make sure you seek shelter away from windows and lowest floor possible as this storm does continue to move off to the east. Yeah, system's a hook echo. Yeah, it's just a hook echo right now, but it's getting very defined. It's more defined than we had a moment ago. It's pretty, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a classic looking supercell, but it's pretty close to it. Right now, south of Stanton. That is, again, where the tornado likes to sit in that little couplet. Strong inflow, hook echo, and then that right there is where that tornado usually likes to sit. We'll go back over to the velocities again. We go to storm relative velocities. Yeah, if you're anywhere south of Stanton, know anybody in this area, I would definitely make sure you get to your safe place immediately. Definitely some strengthening rotation here. This is the slightly higher up view of the velocity, so a little bit off the ground, probably about 1,000 feet. Again, it's there. It might not look like it's there, but it is strengthening. This is becoming more of an organized cell. We have that hook shape again, and usually when we start seeing that hook shape, rotation starts to intensify fairly quickly. So we could see a tornado drop here at any time. And this is going to be slightly higher up off the ground as well. Still, it's not the strongest rotation ever, but it is starting to strengthen near 213 and just to the south of Stanton. Stay in your safe places, away from windows, lowest floor possible. Very clean looking supercell right now. Good news is, for the long term, there is that line of storms back behind it that is all moving off to the east, and this is moving faster than that supercell, which means this line will basically collide with that supercell, essentially weakening it later. But for the short term, it's very concerning. At least for the next 30 to 45 minutes, there's really nothing stopping this from weakening unless there's some other cell that develops around it, which seems kind of unlikely right now. Let's go with 1920. Welcome back. How's it going, Wyatt? Welcome back. Might be getting a slight risk on Thursday. We'll see. I don't know where you are, but I did talk about it in today's forecast. My forecast is not up yet, but we'll have a forecast up on the YouTube channel soon. Probably around 5 o'clock Central Time. Maybe a little bit earlier. We'll kind of see what happens. All right, we do have a brand new tornado warning that has been issued for those in Campton, and this is really going to be a concern now. When the storm continues to move off to the east, it has pretty open space right now. The only thing that might weaken it would be this little cell out in front of it, but even then, it's probably a low chance. But brand new tornado warning that does include Campton. I'm going to check out the other locations here, as well as those in Slade, Furnace, Stanton, Hazel Green, and Vortex. Those areas are all on the track of this ongoing tornado warning. If you're anywhere out in front of this, you want to make sure you're seeking shelter immediately away from windows, lowest floor possible. You should seek shelter right now if you're in this area, so anywhere in this box that I just drew. If you're a little bit out in front of it, you got a few minutes if you're in here, but really only a couple. You should get into your safe place like immediately, as quick as possible. If you're near Campton, you probably got at least 5 minutes. So if you're in Campton, you know, if you need to do something real quick, you got a couple minutes, but, you know, make it quick. Just get to your safe place, play it safe as the storm does continue to move off to the east. It's moving east at about 35 miles per hour, and it could very well drop a tornado at any time. All right, let's go back over to here. We do now have 2 tornado warnings, technically. We do have a couple other supercells that are developing farther to the south of this. These ones do have a potential for producing a tornado at some point, but right now, not nearly as concerning. This is right now what we're looking at with the storms south of Boonville. This is south of the ongoing tornado warning that we have. These are not rotating at this point. The other one near Cumberland has maybe a little bit of rotation. These are other ones to watch for in the long term. Like, when I say long term, I'm talking about like beyond 30 minutes. But for the short term, at least, it's probably not going to be too much of a tornado concern. The really biggest tornado concern right now is this cell further up here to the north and just south of Stanton. This is where we definitely have a more organized supercell developing. Let's go back to the velocities here. Again, fairly strong rotation still. Just to the south of 15 in Stanton. This will be approaching Slade, Kentucky in a few moments. So seek shelter away from windows and lowest floor possible. That is a beautiful looking velocities radar. What in the world? All right, there we go. That was so strange. All right, let's go back over to the reflectivity. By the way, this radar site that we're using, that's just to the east of the cell, back over near Jackson, Kentucky. It actually is updating very frequently, so we kind of know what's going on, you know, pretty well right now. Updating very, very often. Thank you, Greg, for subscribing. I appreciate it. Again, if you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. We do live streams like this all the time. Make sure to like the stream as well. If you're new, helps get this out to more people that are in the track of the severe storms. Again, we'll be live here for a little while, just kind of covering what's happening. And we'll see what happens with these storms. Because, again, this is probably the one that's going to be the most concerning over the next little while. We have some other storms that could pose a concern a little bit later today. But in the short term, the low-level jet is much stronger on the northern side of where these storms are, which is the northern side of the severe thunderstorm watch. And, yeah, that's what we got going right now. Let's go over to the meso stuff. I'm kind of curious. These are the winds slightly off the ground. And these are the winds in the lower level. So this is the low level jet, and you'll notice it's stronger. Where we see these bright greens, that's indicating a bit of a stronger low level jet right now, and it's much stronger up here in parts of central and northern Kentucky. That's why that tornado risk is higher. The thing is, there actually has to be some discrete cells that are ongoing for that low level jet to be utilized with these supercells, and the only ones that we have right now are these two, pretty much, in that utilized area. Now, there's one down near Stone Gap that has a possibility for maybe a tornado at some point, but right now, the low level jet is much stronger the further north you are. You'll notice back near like Nashville, Cleveland, Knoxville, the low level jet gets much weaker further down to the south. And back into Alabama and Mississippi, for my friends down there, you know, Meridian and Birmingham, we're not seeing really much of any low level jet down there. It's more of a hail and damaging wind threat, if anything. And the low level jet is essentially what rotates supercells at the lower levels. So we're not really seeing a whole lot of that further down to the south. It's much stronger back up here to the north in central and northern Kentucky. How's it going, Luke? Yeah, it still has a hook. I mean, this is pretty, I would say this is, I wouldn't say this is like classic, but we do see this quite often in Kentucky, especially during like the late spring and summer months. This does happen quite often, actually, believe it or not. It's not something that's like uncommon to see. You actually see this a bit more often during this time of the year. All right, here's the latest radar scan. Again, we still have a lot of hail here. The storm right now is warned, technically, the tornado warning. It is warned for $half sized hail. We are seeing that threat here. That is just south of 613. So there's definitely still some $half sized hail there. You'll notice the hook on this storm as well. We still have a pretty clean hook echo that is on the supercell itself. We have a clean inflow going into the storm. This is where the tornado likes to sit. So that would be just to the northeast of Irvine. This is near Slade, Kentucky now. So that's really the key area right now, that little circle there near the arrow. I don't have my cursor on, but right there, that is our area where the tornado would like to be located if there were to be one. If we go back to the velocities and kind of just match that up, I'm not seeing as much rotation again. It's been a very in and out storm so far, this particular cell. We'll go a little bit higher up off the ground as well to see if there's anything higher up. And yeah, so if we go about 1,000 feet up into the atmosphere, about 1,500 feet, there is a little bit more rotation there, but it's, again, it's not very organized right now. It's been disorganized for quite a while, but we could still see a brief tornado drop out of this at any time. This has been a tornado warning cell for a little over an hour now, and it just continues. Thank you, Bob, as well as Mark, for subscribing. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to see if we have any other reports in the storm right now. And no new reports as of right now. Again, if you're in Slade, Kentucky, you want to be in your safe place right now, as well as Furnace. Those two locations, you're pretty much over the storm right now. Get to your safe place, away from windows, lowest floor possible, interior room of your home or building. Campton and Vortex, if you're further out in front of this, you still got about 5 minutes or so. So, you know, just get ready to get to your safe place as quickly as possible. But I would recommend getting there, you know, as soon as possible. If there's something urgent that you have to do, you have a couple minutes. As well as Hazel Green, you have a few minutes. And then back, really, at the bottom quadrant here, Elka Tawa, that's going to be down here on the very far southeast side of this warning. You also have a little bit until the storm reaches you. Jackson, you'll be in the track this here pretty soon. Let me put a little track on this storm and give you an idea of where it's actually heading and how long it'll take to get to you. Obviously, this is estimated timing, so this might reach you soon. You know, just give or take 10 to 15 minutes on this timing guide. But this is currently the estimated timing on this storm. So Campton will be around 2:50, Salersville will be 3:30, Prestonburg around 4 o'clock, Martin 4:05, and then eventually going towards Allen City around 4:06. And this is again all in Central Time. Coal Run 4:24 and Pikeville at 4:29. So those are the areas in the track of this storm right now. Quick question: is this area in Eastern Time or Central Time? I forgot to change time zones, so I'm not sure if this is in a different time zone. I think Kentucky, for the most part, is in Central, but I could be wrong. Something I probably should have done beforehand. That's the current timing in Central Time, so if you're in Eastern Time, you just got to add an hour to those timestamps. That is Eastern. Oh, cool. All right, I'm not even in the right time zone. Awesome. All right, let me fix this real quick. I'm just gonna turn this off real quick. One moment. Ignore the very red screen. do apologize. I, for some reason, kind of forgot that, you know, might be Eastern time. All right, we'll restart the software really quickly. And we'll open it back up. All right, there we go. Display capture is coming back on now. There we go. Thank you. I did not think of that beforehand. I do not know why. All right, let's go over to the tornado warning again. We're going to stay on that tornado warning for the time being. We do have some other cells forming to the south, so we'll kind of go over those in a moment as well. Go over to the tornado warning. And let's go back to the velocities on this storm. This is the radar scan as of 3:34. Very broad rotation now. It's been broadening out. We still have a hook on this storm. Very clean hook echo. Inflow going into the storm. That is where the tornado likes to sit. Again, we're not seeing any... We've not at least had any confirmed tornado out of this yet. We had a report of a wall cloud a while ago. That was like a solid, you know, hour ago now. That was like at the very beginning of this live stream, but we've not had any of those reports since then. But this is the area that we still have a concern for a tornado. The tornado warning does continue for those near Slade, Campton, and as well as Vortex, Kentucky for the next approximately 30 minutes or so. But this storm is struggling, I'll say that. It's been struggling to really maintain its intensity. Here's the latest radar scan. Don't even really have to move any of the arrows. That's pretty much the same as before. Some of those higher level clouds are kind of getting out in front of it. And if we go over to the satellite imagery here, so I'm going to go over to this screen, kind of just a little interesting thing to look at. Let me zoom in on here. So if you'll look at the satellite imagery, that storm is going to be like in here somewhere. It's kind of in that region. It's a little bit off to the east, I think, of that. But all these upper level clouds that are coming from that outflow driven storm are coming over top of it, which actually might be weakening its upper level clouds, which actually could be hindering that rotation. That's definitely a possibility here. Because again, you'll notice all these upper level clouds here, all the storms that are along that outflow boundary are exploding, reaching a certain height. They're moving quickly off to the east. The upper level winds are stronger, higher up off the ground, and they're kind of carrying off to the east. And that's essentially what we're seeing here with this storm, which is actually just to the, yeah, it's basically in that area now where that we're seeing those upper level clouds. And you actually can see that in the reflectivity, by the way. You might notice all this green around this. That is all, for the most part, just upper level clouds. Oop, my radar's not on the right thing. Let me fix this real quick. Here we go. So anywhere in that circle there, that is all rain. This is all being basically detected from some of those upper level clouds. So that's what we're seeing kind of out in front of that outflow boundary, which might be kind of weakening the supercell. We actually, interestingly enough, I saw this when we were covering, or when I was covering Texas weather a few weeks ago. We had something similar where there were storms back over in central Texas, and they were exploding, and the upper level winds were just so strong that they carried, and storms that were trying to form out in front of it were so weak. And sometimes that can happen where we have these upper level clouds that kind of get out in front of it, and it just weakens the cells from developing to a certain height. So that's a possibility too. That might be what's happening with the storm, because the rotation has been super minimal over the last couple of scans. It's been weakening. It's been in, I mean, it's been in this cycle for a while though. We've seen strong rotation, we've seen weak rotation, we've seen strong, weak. It's been kind of back and forth. So again, I would say you're a safe place if you're in Campton or anywhere in that sort of region, anywhere in the pink polygon, northwest of Jackson, Kentucky. Does include Vortex. But again, I think the storm might be weakening out at this point. We'll see what happens though. I mean, you know, this is our most discrete, I mean, this isn't the most discrete supercell anymore. We got a couple of other discrete cells forming down to the south and east, but none of them in comparison to this one. We actually have a small little baby storm near Pikeville that has a small little hook shape to it, but not really any rotation right now. That's near Pikeville. And then back over near Cumberland, we also have a little cell that formed. This is just hail, I would say. Maybe damaging winds. That really, I don't think there'll be a whole lot of damaging winds with that, but there is at least some hail with that one. I think that cell earlier did produce a little bit of hail. And then we do have another cell that is currently somewhat discrete. That's south of Boonville, south of Jackson, Kentucky. This has a tornado possible label, but I'm not seeing really any rotation here right now. That's making me too concerned for this area. So really, still our main cell that is producing any sort of tornado risk is back up here. A little update for Red House. This is about an hour ago, but this report just came in. There was 2 reports of a tree down on Red House Road, excuse me. So if you're on Red House Road, or if you're in that area, just a heads up, there is a report or a couple reports of a tree down on that road. That's over in Madison County, Kentucky. Tornado warning does continue though until 4:15 Eastern time for Campton and just northeast or northwest, excuse me, of Jackson. Check general chat. All right. Friendly reminder, if you're tuning in, by the way, make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe. Yeah, so there's some pretty ominous skies right now. That Slippy just sent in. Pretty ominous skies on this storm right now. This is just one of those photos. Thank you, Slippy, for sending this. But yeah, there's some pretty ominous skies. This is the storm north of Irvine, by the way. So hard to really tell if there's much rotation with this particular storm. There might be some like cloud rotation there, but trying to look at the video here that you sent to. Yeah, I'm not seeing a whole lot of rotation. There's like a little bit of rotation in the clouds, but it kind of depends on what angle we're looking at here, because I'm not sure like how direct that would be on this storm. But yeah, I mean, there is definitely some cloud rotation, but it's not too crazy right now. Why you might need a refresh. Sometimes that happens. All right, let's go to the latest velocity scan. Again, this storm seems to be weakening out here. We're not seeing much rotation anymore with this cell, at least in the lower levels, which has been quite a theme here for a little while now with this storm. Upper levels are still have some rotation. I mean, this is a little bit off the ground, and you'll notice back down where that hook is. Let me go to the pen here, wherever it just went. Right here, there is still some rotation there. That's going to be about 10-15 miles west of Campton, but again, it's not nearly as strong as before. So that's good news at this point, but obviously the bad news is that it's definitely still producing some hail. Look at this hook. I mean, it's a pretty impressive cell for what it is. We still have a lot of hail on the northern side of it, probably around $1/4 to $1/2 size, but pretty impressive hook there. Now we have another radar scan, and this one is still showing a pretty decent hook here. We still have some hail. Then here's your hook on the storm. Inflow going into the storm. There's still an inflow, but it's not nearly as organized as previously. It's moving off to the east pretty quickly. If you're in Campton, or in the vortex area, you got a couple minutes, and then you probably want to get to your safe place then. Further down to the south, we still have some severe storms ongoing. A lot of these producing the threat for damaging winds around 60 miles per hour. There might be some quarter-sized hail involved with a couple of those storms as well. And also back near Big Stone Gap, there's a storm down that direction producing a little bit of hail. But otherwise, a lot of these storms are producing damaging winds. We'll keep a close eye on this one and see what happens, but some of the old damage reports that we're getting, by the way, so for those that are kind of in the storms or out in front of it, some of the things that you can expect are the threats for falling trees. So there might be some trees that fall, as well as power lines. We have a report of that back over in Stanford, Kentucky. That is in Lincoln County, Kentucky from a little while ago. So some of the things that you want to try to be mindful of is that trees can fall with these storms, especially when damaging winds occur. So that is definitely one of the bigger concerns. We do have a new slight risk of, or we have a new risk of severe weather, a new update, I should say, for this area. We'll kind of go over it here. I think it updated on here, so we'll check that out if it did. Now we can kind of just compare and contrast. So yeah, this is the new risk of severe weather. This has been updated by the Storm Prediction Center. Let's take off the radar, and we'll take off the warnings and stuff like that for the moment. All right, so here is the new risk of severe weather. Hasn't changed a whole lot. The main thing is that it's just condensed. So enhanced risk of severe weather still does continue for those in Northeast Tennessee, Western Virginia, and Southeast Kentucky. That's been pretty much a given at this point. That was what it was before anyways. But that's where our risk of severe weather is now. That's like the maximum risk for today. It's going to be in this area, anywhere in the orange shaded region. Main concern still is damaging winds upwards of 60 to 70 miles per hour. Maybe some sporadic hail and maybe a couple of tornadoes. And then we still have a slight risk of severe weather that does cover a pretty large area from Nashville back through Charlotte and as well as Raleigh, North Carolina. And then back over into Virginia, we have a marginal threat of severe weather all the way to Virginia Beach. That's for damaging winds. And then back through areas like Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi, a marginal threat for some sporadic hail and damaging winds as well. So some trees, power lines, that sort of stuff could potentially get knocked down from that threat for the rest of today. So that is the update there from the Storm Prediction Center. Nothing too big of a no big changes to it at this point, which is good news. But yeah, no big changes. Still the same threats as before, but a little bit more condensed. Damaging winds will be the main concern, though. Again, a lot of these storms are going to be outflow driven, so that'll kind of maximize that damaging wind threat a bit more. Any concern for severe weather or tornadoes in Illinois Friday or this weekend? I talked about this in today's forecast. It'll be out in a couple hours, so Stay tuned for that, but overall, not really. There won't be really much of a tornado risk. Yeah, we'll have a video out on all that sort of stuff in a little while. That should be out at 5 o'clock Central Time. 6 o'clock Eastern. That'll be in my next little video. I made it earlier today, but I just didn't have it. I didn't post it yet since I plan on going live anyways. For a little bit. Thank you, Dom, for subscribing. I appreciate it. Yeah, if you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Like the stream. Helps get this out to more people. We'll kind of see what involves here over the next hour or so. Next 30 minutes. If anything kind of gets going. Yeah, we still have that tornado warning ongoing west of Campton, but the rotation is fairly weak in the lower levels. We have a storm that formed east of the radar site, east of Jackson, going towards Prestonsburg. This storm in particular is not too concerning right now. It's developing, so we'll have to watch and see if that develops maybe a hook shape to it. But this would be our next storm that might have some concern, because it's well out in front of the outflow boundary, 1, and then 2, it is discrete, so definitely some cause for concern there. And then further down to the south and west of Jackson, we still have a hailstorm ongoing. Not really much rotation on this, but a bit more of a hail core there. East of 11, that's producing the threat for some quarter-sized hail. Further down to the south of that, near Interstate 75, we do have a little storm there producing some quarter-sized hail and damaging winds around 60. And then further off to the east near Bluefield, we actually have a storm developing a bit prematurely, I would say. Back near Bluefield. Let's check in on this storm in West Virginia, or Western Virginia. I say West Virginia, I mean, like, you know, as in Western Virginia. There is a storm ongoing near Tazewell that's producing quarter-sized hail and damaging winds around 60. So this is a brand new storm that has popped up in the last few minutes. And correlation coefficient does indicate there is definitely some hail falling. So when we start to see those yellows and greens, that does indicate that there is some hail falling with that hail core. There's no tornado here, but there is definitely some hail. No rotation either right now. I'm very curious about the storm that's developing back over east of the radar site. We might get something going there. We'll see. There's still a little bit of rotation potentially with the storm. Let me check. That's actually in the interior. So yeah, right now the tornado warning cell that we have near Campton and Vortex still not really rotating a whole lot, at least at the lower levels. But stay in your safe place as the storm passes. The tornado warning does continue here until 4:15 Eastern Time. Here. Cool. No new reports on this storm either right now, which the last one we had was from Slippy, kind of showed a little bit of rotation in the clouds, but not really a whole lot else at this point. So yeah, not too concerning. Next radar scan will be coming in here in just a moment, so we'll check out and see if anything new happens. Let's go down to the storm near Corbin real quick. This is a new cell that's also developed. Again, the discrete cells are the ones that are more concerning today. I do have a storm near Interstate 75 near Corbin. We'll check out to see if this has any sort of potential here. It is a little discrete cell that's kind of formed just to the west of Corbin, Kentucky. Not really any rotation here. Again, maybe some damaging winds around 60, but that's about it. Maybe a little bit of small hail as well. And then further up here to the north, again, that's where our tornado warning is ongoing. This is really the main quadrant for the next hour that I would say has the greatest threat of severe weather in terms of the tornado risk as well as the damaging wind threat. If anything evolves out of that. Yeah, Virginia should be fine for a little while. The only storm that we have is back over in Western Virginia, but even then, I don't at least see any sort of huge tornado risk at this point for Virginia. It's gonna be a fairly low risk. It's more of a damaging wind threat. That'll be more maximized closer to like 6, 7 o'clock tonight over in Virginia. It depends on where you are, though. I mean, if you're on the eastern side of the state near Virginia Beach, you have a better chance probably after sunset. But on the western side of the state, you have a better chance right around 6 to 8 o'clock tonight. New update to this warning, by the way, south of Jackson. This is now up to golf ball sized hail and damaging winds around 60 miles per hour near 2022 and 28. The Morris Fork area, Buckhorn, Gaze Creek, as well as Chabies, Lamont, and Hazard are all included in this warning for golf ball sized hail and damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour. There is still a tornado possible label on this. There is like some very weak rotation you'll notice down here. I'm not too concerned about the tornado risk with this storm in particular. But be on alert for that. More of a hail threat at this point. The storm back over east of the radar site, east of Jackson, still has a little bit of rotation. And nothing too defined at this current time on that area. All right, we do have a new severe thunderstorm warning for Campton. It does look like this tornado warning will be allowed to expire, or actually potentially be it'll probably be canceled, is my guess here. The rotation right now is located near 402 and south of 715, northwest of Campton. This is gonna be near Fort Dex, but again, I'm assuming that they're gonna probably cancel this tornado warning because this storm has been weakening a ton. We do actually have a new tornado warning on the storm south of Bluefield. I'm kind of surprised by that. Let's go over to the storm near Bluefield. This is near Tazewell. Brand new tornado warning for this area. Make sure you're seeking shelter immediately away from windows, lowest floor possible. Interior room of your home or building. And this is the rotation right now. So it's just southeast of Tazewell. The storm right now is rotating about 2 miles to the southeast of Tazewell. So if you're in this area, seek shelter away from windows, lowest floor possible. Not a lot of rotation yet. There is some moderate rotation, I would say. And this is the reflectivity, so there's possibility that this is a rain-wrapped area of rotation, but we do have at least that inflow. You'll notice just a little bit of an inflow there. It's kind of hard to pick out since we're a bit further away from the radar site, but that is where that little inflow is. So again, if you're in this area just east of Richlands, this is going to be for Ceres and Burke's Garden. Make sure you seek shelter immediately away from windows, lowest floor possible. This will continue to move off to the east. That is our pocket of rotation right now. We'll go to the correlation coefficient as well. And I'm pretty sure at this point, the correlation coefficient is just picking up on the hail. And yeah, you'll notice here, there's a hail core here. So that little circle there, even though there was at least some, like, you know, color showing up there other than red, doesn't necessarily mean there was a tornado. More than anything, it's just hail because we do have a hail core. And the radar is facing this way. So definitely some hail there. All right. No problem, IS. I was one in Corbin. Look, think there was a tornado warning. Where's Corbin? What are we talking? Blacktop, I think there is. I don't remember what it's called. So I think there is though. All right. By the way, tornado warning has expired for Kentucky. That I was kind of foreseeing since they issued a severe thunderstorm warning. There are still severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing across the state. A lot of these are producing hail and damaging winds. There is still a potential for a tornado or two with those. More than anything, though, we're looking at more of a hail and damaging wind threat right now across the state. We do have a new severe thunderstorm warning back near Morristown as well. This is producing the threat for damaging winds around 60 miles per hour and quarter-sized hail. I am not seeing a whole lot out of this storm, though, right now. That's too concerning. It's more of a hail threat, and as well as damaging winds. No tornado risk at this point for that storm. Only tornado warning is currently in western parts of Virginia. This is southeast of Tazewell. Fairly rural area here. This is for Ceres as well as Burke's Garden. Those are the two areas that we currently have that ongoing tornado warning for. So we will keep a close eye on that. But again, not really that many people live in this area at least, which is good news. But rotation is not too strong at this time. Let's go to the storm relative velocities. Again, rotation's not very strong right now. It's still broad. Something to watch for, but I would say the risk of a tornado at this current time is still kind of low, but it might increase a little bit as it moves towards Interstate 77, maybe Wytheville, Virginia. Those areas will be on the track of that. Howard, no. If you go to the very beginning of the stream, go all the way back to like the first, like literally the beginning of it. I was on the green screen for the first half hour. You'll see it actually in action from earlier. If you want to check it out. I think I'll have an official announcement on it, possibly tomorrow. I was gonna make an announcement video for it for YouTube as well. I just never posted it since I am going on another trip beginning tomorrow all the way through Saturday. So I will not have any videos for the most part. I might have like one video forecast. So I'll make like an announcement video so there's something to watch for the green screen because again, it's a pretty cool addition that we have. But I might have a video on Thursday or Friday because there is a chance for severe weather in North Texas on Friday and really across a large chunk of the Southern Plains. I have a video on that today, but I'll probably have an update video on that on Thursday or Friday. Probably Thursday is my guess. Nice and sunny for me. That's nice. I think it is for me too. I cannot recall. I've not really been outside yet today. Or have I really looked outside today? Pretty sure it's pretty sunny out. Could be wrong. I have no clue. Oh yeah, today's forecast, by the way, again, I'll be out in a couple hours. A pretty funny little thing at the if you don't watch my entire forecast, if you only like watch the first few minutes, make sure to watch watch it like minute 6 or 6 minutes and 30 seconds. It's pretty funny, or it might be funny. I don't know. We'll see. Did a little thing there just after 6.5 minutes. All right, tornado warning for Tazewell still ongoing, just southeast of Tazewell, Virginia. Rotation again is not overly impressive. There is a little bit of rotation, but again, not too strong at this time. Is there severe weather predicted for Wisconsin on Thursday? No, at this current time, there's no risk of severe weather on Thursday anywhere in the Midwest. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a marginal risk that gets added in, though. I still do think there's a chance at least for something, whether that's a little bit of damaging winds or maybe some hail. I still think there will be at least some sort of risk added in, but it'd probably be marginal, if anything. It's not going to be a severe weather outbreak. There will be enough buoyancy for at least a little bit of severe weather. It's not going to be much, but there's just a little bit. Just enough. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, but yeah. I think the risk will be low. But for Friday, they don't have a risk up there in the Midwest yet, but I would not be surprised if they had at least a marginal threat that goes through the Midwest. But it would be a pretty low risk again. There's no, like, severe weather outbreaks in the near future in the Midwest, by any means. Temperature 75. Nice. It's actually pretty comfortable. All right, this tornado warning is still ongoing in Virginia. I'm not seeing anything too impressive on that storm, though. It's broad rotation at this time. Let's kind of go back through the Kentucky storms again. Campton right now, that's the storm that was tornado warned originally. It is no longer tornado warned. Let's go to the radar here. Yeah, again, this storm is weakening out as the outflow boundary approaches. It is weakening quite quickly. The next storms that would have any potential for a tornado would be like one like this that's discrete and well out in front of that outflow boundary. So near Prestonsburg, west of Allen City, that's the next storm that might have some concern. West of Hazard, that's another storm. That one was producing golf ball sized hail, but is weakening. There's another cell east of Pikeville that is very weak. Not really anything going on there. That's just west of Phelps. That is not rotating at this current time, at least, you know, definitively. And then just to the north of Knoxville, this is kind of in the, again, northern Tennessee area. These storms are producing hail. These will probably be mainly hail and damaging wind producers. There might be an isolated tornado if one can become organized, but right now a lot of these cells are in their early days of developing, and then back through Somerset and into southern parts of Kentucky. Damaging winds and a little bit of large hail continues. The storm near Corbin is still ongoing, and it has a tornado possible labeled, but not a tornado warning. Something to watch out for, but I'm not too concerned about the storm right now east of Interstate 75. So overall, again, the severe weather threat, it's going to continue. There's an enhanced risk of severe weather, obviously. But the threat of severe weather for the rest of today, it's not, like, enormous. Now, most of Kentucky, I wouldn't say most, but at least for those that have not seen storms yet and you're in the eastern or southern side of the state, you'll probably still see some degree of severe weather, at least some sort of strong storms, whether that's gusty winds or some hail or even an isolated tornado. You want to be on alert for that, but I think the threat of severe weather, to be honest with you, will not be too extraordinary. And I already kind of mentioned, like, I didn't think it would be in the first place. We don't really have any, like, significant severe weather potentials for today, so we're not talking about, like, 2-inch plus hail or strong tornadoes or even, like, you know, damaging winds exceeding 70 miles per hour. None of that's really in play today. It's a lot of just damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour, hail up to golf ball sized hail, and, you know, an isolated tornado or two. That's pretty much it. But yeah, I think the threat of severe weather is not going to be too high. Now, there's an enhanced risk, obviously, which I think is very reasonable for this sort of setup. But I honestly do think that the severe weather is not going to be too significant. Thank you, Cindy, for subscribing. I don't think the storms are necessarily weakening. The only ones that'll be weakening are along that outflow boundary. So let's just go over to the general radar here. So this is your initial line of storms pretty much. And this is moving faster than all these discrete cells that are popping out in front of it. So once this outflow boundary and that line of storms catches up to those discrete cells, those cells will start to weaken, but more storms are forming out in front of it. So you'll notice down here, for example, we have storms forming well out in front of that outflow boundary. Those have the greatest potential for severe weather this afternoon. So the outflow boundary and really anywhere in this line of storms here, it's going to be primarily damaging winds up to 60 to 65 miles per hour. There might be an isolated storm up to 70 miles per hour, but the tornado risk is pretty much zero with that line. For the discrete cells, though, that we're seeing, that's why there's an enhanced risk, because those ones have the capability of more of a hail, damaging wind, and maybe even a tornado threat as well. So those are the kind of the key differences here with the different storms that we have out there right now. But otherwise, that's pretty much what's going to happen for the rest of this afternoon. Kind of just gave you the rundown. I was only planning on being live for like an hour or two today, and that's going to probably do it for now. Stay alert. The tornado warning is in a very rural area, so it's weakening. It's not really that strong anyways, but again, stay in your safe place. Be prepared for the severe weather for the rest of today if you're anywhere in Kentucky or Tennessee. I'll have a video forecast out within the next 2-ish hours, so stay tuned for that. That'll be going over everything after today. Does not include any discussion about today. That's why I didn't post it today. Or yet, I should say. And that'll be it for today's live stream. I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you want to check out what I did at the beginning of this live stream, by the way, with the green screen, feel free to stick around until after the video ends, or, you know, go to the very beginning of this live stream. You can check out the green screen and me using it. It's actually really cool. I'll be using it more in the live streams in the near future. But again, make sure to subscribe down below if you're new here. Like the stream if you enjoyed the stream. Again, I would be live a little bit longer, but I do actually have to pack. I literally have to, I have another vacation tomorrow. I know I have a lot of stuff going on in May and as well as June, but luckily I'll have a bit more of a break after that. So, but I do appreciate everybody tuning in. Have a great, safe rest of your day and as well as night. And stay safe out there. And again, video forecast in a couple hours. Stay tuned for that. Turn on post notifications down below so you get notified for that.